Hi, and welcome to What the Phalange, the podcast where we watch every episode of Friends, discuss it, deconstruct it, and fan over it, one episode at a time.
My name is Emily, pronouns she and her.
And my name is Quinn, pronouns ze/zer or they, them.
This week, we're talking about Season 1, Episode 3, The One with the Thumb. This episode aired for the first time on October 6th, 1994. It was written by Jeff Astroff and Mike Sikowitz. It was directed by James Burrows.
This week, as we continue to use our platform to highlight BIPOC, or Black, Indigenous Peoples of Color's voices, we want to give a shout out to the podcast Yoga is Dead.
Yoga is Dead is hosted by Jaisal and Tejal, two awesome South Asian yoga teachers. Season 1 of their podcast has 6 episodes about different ways that yoga is commodified, appropriated, and abused. If you practice yoga or teach yoga, or even if you just want to learn more about yoga, this podcast should be required listening. It's time us yoga teachers begin to listen, learn, grow, and fight. So, episode 3.
Oh my goodness, episode 3.
This one had such a different vibe than the other episodes.
Yeah, I feel that way. I also find that the storyline that I find the most memorable is Phoebe's
thumb story.
Bank story.
I
mean, it turns out to Phoebe's money story, I guess. But we kind of want to talk about the cold open first. It opens and, oh right, Phoebe just got back from a date.
Not so good. He walked me to the subway and said, "We should do this again."
Oh.
I love that.
And I think this, again, is showing how naive and new Rachel is to the world. You know?
Yes and no, because I feel as though if you're saying we should do this again, you probably think that the person wants to do this again.
Yeah, but I think that the way that everyone else in the room all understand this, like, unspoken language that exists in the dating scene.
Okay.
It really shows that, like, Rachel came from, like, that perspective of, you know, you live in your dad's home until you're married and then you live in your husband's home. She's never really done the dating scene as an adult, you know, you hear her talk about it as, like, in high school and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's, like, a whole different world.
When you're an adult, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I have a really hard time relating to any of this dating style. It's kind of like this realm that existed before we really started dating, I think. Mm-hmm. Because
I never really dated.
Well, yeah. Dating is just so different now. I re-downloaded Tinder as of this episode and just re-put my feet in the shoes of someone who dates today. And it's sort of like, it's just not how it works anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I think that comes up a couple times in the episode. Like, even when Monica goes on her date, I wrote in my notes, I was like, is that a normal thing to go on, like, maybe 2 or 3 dates with someone and you don't know how you feel about them, but then you, like, have a formal invite of them to come to your apartment to meet your friends? Like, it feels like maybe it wasn't supposed to be formal and the friends made it formal, but, like, it felt, like, really awkward. Like, do you, like, let me bring this person I'm seeing who I don't actually know how I'm feeling home to meet my friends?
Yeah, that's true. And actually, let's skip over to that, like the whole Monica Allen storyline. I find it very interesting that it's almost laying that groundwork again of kind of depicting their group of friends as more of a chosen family, you know, where it's sort of like Alan is meeting the family and, like, the family want to know, like, when they can meet this guy that Monica's seeing. You know, she has him over to, like, the house where it's like the whole family is existing, watching TV and just, like, hanging out.
Yeah, that's cute. I didn't think of it that way. So I pulled up the script because I just wanted to double check again the things that they say, and I wanted to go through them and see if you find that what they said is actually what they mean. You know? So
Oh, interesting.
We should do it again means you will never see me naked. I don't know.
That's, like, a pretty big leap.
That's a huge leap.
Yeah, it's
like,
a pretty big leap.
They're obviously doing this for, like, comedic value. We should do this again is actually no. If you say it like that, I don't know. We should do this again.
Yeah, I think it could indicate uncertainty. I think the one that really hit home for me, or what I very much agree with, is the last one that they say of, I think we should see other people, means...
Haha, I already am.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty spot on. I think...
Interesting.
Like someone has clearly already had interest in other people, at the very least, or has an eye on someone else that they want to date. Also, like why else would you, like, why would you say that? I think we should see other people.
Yeah,
okay.
Is it more in like an open relationship kind of way? I think we should see other people, or is it in like a we should break up and we should see other people kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. It depends. It depends on the context.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I feel like...
Yeah, we're talking really from a monogamous standpoint.
Yeah,
because that's what the context that they're talking about.
No, I also find that, like, this scene, again, plays into that, like, dating is a game trope, and, like, people don't mean what they say. I find it often plays into, like, the consent thing, where it's like, oh, she means this when she says this, you know? And I feel like that's, like, a dangerous path to walk.
I think that's a really good point. And that did cross my mind when I was, the whole kind of script behind dating, seeing it as a script, and some words mean something else and require like men and women to react in certain ways instead of actually taking for face value what people are saying in order to ensure that there is proper consent in the situation.
And like, I get that you say things to like soften the blow, which is literally the way that they say it in this. Like, they soften the blow. Okay, but I do want to talk about, and I know we've been talking about this for a long time, so we'll probably cut some of this, but I do want to talk about the fact that Chandler gives the example of, oh, you're such a nice guy means I'm going to be dating leather-wearing alcoholics and complaining about them to you.
Yeah.
This is the reason why we almost named this podcast The Friend Zone. Like, it's like the classic nice guy trope. It's like, I use the word trope so much on this podcast, but it's like the classic thing of like, oh, like, she just wants to be my friend. She just wants to, like, you know, tell me about all these shitty guys she's dating, but she's never gonna sleep with me. And, like,
so
I hate that.
Something that I've actually discovered in having an Instagram account that is entirely centered around friends, only following friends accounts, is that apparently this show actually popularized the concept and the term having someone in the friend zone.
What?
I know, right?
Oh my god, that's cool.
Yeah, and so like the concept already existed, but it's just interesting because it's a real problem, and you see it in this, not only in this episode with this specific situation, but you see it throughout the entire series as being like an issue.
Like, someone doesn't owe you anything if you're dating them. And they also don't owe you anything if they're your friend. Like, obviously they owe you like compassion and kindness and like respectfulness. But like, in the sense of like, if you're friends with someone for 3 years and you're upset that they're not sleeping with you, that's shitty. That's super shitty. Like, you should be there.
Well, it's shitty that you expect that of them.
Yes. Did I not make that clear?
It sounds a little bit like, it's shitty that this person isn't sleeping with you after 3 years.
All right. You're right. That's not great. That's the opposite of what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we see Chandler and Joey's apartment for the first time after this, after the cold open, after the theme song. You made the comment, they are acting that they are acting.
Okay, because it's super meta, and I have such an appreciation for anything that's very meta. But like, as an actor, having to act, but then act that you're acting badly. It's just, it's so interesting. Like, you're in character acting, but you have to be bad at acting in that character.
Yeah, you're right. It's very weird.
Yeah, it's so, I don't know. I just thought it was funny.
When you first smoked a cigarette, were you as clunky as Joey smoking a cigarette?
No. Like, okay, there's enough, like, representation in the media of how to smoke a cigarette properly.
I also don't think it's realistic that he tried to light the lighter and it fully flicked out of his hand. Like, I was like, I watched that twice and I was like, how is that physically possible?
And
like, you just flung it, Joey. You just flung it.
It's also out of character for Joey because, like, he's, like, not, like, the suavest person in the world, but, like, he's also kind of cool, at the very least. Like, he knows how to light a lighter.
But he's also, like, really always portrayed as, like, being an idiot.
True. He's so cute. My heart.
Joey.
But Joey's whole, not that relaxed, too relaxed hand situation, it was a little it's a little silly.
And then Chandler is like describing the cigarette is the thing that's been missing from your hand. When you, oh my god,
he's not wrong.
When I was smoking, I definitely felt that way. Like it, but I never really smoked a lot. Like it was more just like when you were outside waiting for a bus, it felt like a cigarette was missing from your hand. Anytime you were doing something in which you were like waiting or standing outside or drinking a beer or socializing. So yeah, maybe there were many times in which I felt like a cigarette was missing from my hand.
Yeah.
But
I remember once wanting to walk home from a bar with someone and then being like, no, we can't walk. I don't have a cigarette. I was just like, oh.
Yeah, when I was smoking, I remember like someone texting me. They were like, "Oh, I'm gonna be like 15 minutes late for the restaurant, like for brunch or something." And I'd be like, "Perfect. 15 minutes is the length of time it takes me to smoke a cigarette. Let me sit on this stoop, you know?" Or like,
excellent.
And like, I actively would use smoking as a way to like leave places or like wait for things, or yeah, it definitely became like integrated into my life in a specific way.
And I can definitely understand why Chandler as a character in his psyche is a smoker, because he's someone who just cannot deal with social situations, and smoking is just an amazing tool. Not that we, endorse it. That like
our affiliated brand this week is Camel cigarettes.
Oh God,
kidding. Do they even make Camel cigarettes anymore?
I don't know. That's a good question. No, I think they do. Yeah, they do.
I interrupted you.
But yeah, no, I can see Chandler's character being someone who has a really hard time with social situations. Mm-hmm. That like cigarettes are almost like a designed tool to deal with feeling awkward in social situations, and either having an out, like, oh, I don't want to be part of this conversation anymore. Oh, I just have to go for a smoke. Yeah. Or, a way to meet people, or talk to people without feeling like there's some sort of like imposingness to it. And Chandler is a character who would definitely need that, because he struggles with that so hard.
Yeah. I forgot how many people I met from smoking.
Oh my God, it's a great tool to meet people.
That's true.
It's either smoking or having a dog.
That's what we're endorsing. Getting a dog, not smoking.
Get a dog. I mean, that is my plan. I quit smoking and I'm going to get a dog.
Oh, man. Okay.
Let's talk about Phoebe coming into the cafe and getting $500 in her bank account.
Sure.
Oh, wait, and her being very stressed about it.
No. Before we talk about that, I want to talk about something else that happens at the beginning of the scene.
Okay.
When they're like, the tip of your index to your thumb is the size of your penis, but they never actually say the word penis. Do you notice that? Because it's a primetime 7:30 p.m. TV show. So they say, I heard that it's the guy's this, because obviously only men have penises, blah, blah, blah. They never actually say the word penis. They just, like, imply it. And they do that quite frequently in the show. It's like, they don't actually say anything that's, like, explicit sex-wise, but they, like, imply things. But I do have to laugh at the line that Ross says. He's like, can I use any thumb and any finger?
Or no, he says, can I use either thumb? And he's actually using a finger and his thumb.
Yeah.
And you're just like...
separate hands, yeah. Oh, that's great. Anyways, okay, yes, you go.
So Phoebe comes in, and she is upset. And this time she's being all flingy. And she sits down... Twirly, sorry. She's being all twirly this time around. And she's upset because she found $500 in her bank account extra. Her bank has just given her an extra $500. I polled people. 71% of people said that they would keep it, and 29% said that they would get rid of it. Or whether that's give it back or give it away.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
What would you do?
I would not give it away. I would try to give it back. And this is not an ethical level. I think that I should give my money back to the bank. I think that I would expect the bank to come back for it.
Yeah,
that's what I would thinking. That's what I would fear.
Yeah,
and if like the bank was giving me a hard time with that, I would put it into off to the side in a little account and let it sit there, because they're inevitably going to come after it
and grow interest until they come after it.
Exactly, right? Like, you don't know with those things, right? Like. Mm-hmm. It's just hard to tell. And I think that this is actually very relatable to what just recently happened in, Canada. In Canada here with CERB.
Right.
So, yeah, so like CERB is the Canadian emergency response benefit program that was released in response to the pandemic. And the thing is that if you were either put on EI or anything like that, sometimes you would accidentally also get CERB. And so people were getting like
double.
Thousands of dollars, like double the amount of money that they were supposed to be getting. And everyone was sort of freaking out because they were sort of like, am I really rich now? Or am I going to have to give all this money back? Are they going to make the same mistake in the other direction and want all of the money back suddenly? And like,
right, yeah.
And then like a couple months later, there started being like these things set up where it's like you can pay back extra money.
Right.
Which in some ways you could say is like kind of unfair because it's like, what if, someone's just sort of like given this money and they are kind of expect that this is just how the benefit was working and then put that money towards something that makes it really hard to pay it back, especially when $2,000 living like in a city like Toronto or Vancouver
can make a huge difference.
Could be your entire rent, Yeah. Especially if you have kids and that's not a very nice apartment.
Yeah. Housing crisis. Brutal.
I know, right?
Yeah. So I think that like I would just honestly like even if it wasn't for the fact that the bank would come back to get the money, like I just feel like I would just be perpetually anxious.
Yeah, I know, right? I would too. I would be so anxious.
I'd be like, the bank will be mad at me and then take all my money.
Oh my God.
I'm just like too anxious about it. I blow everything out of proportion. So they're going to think that I took $500 and they're going to take $1,000. I don't know.
So I totally get the stressful side of it, of being like, I don't want this. It's not mine. But with Phoebe on like a moral side of being like, it's not my money. I didn't earn it. I'm totally on Rachel's side where it's like, spend it and we like shopping.
Yeah, that's great. What would you do if you had $500 extra in your account right now?
Oh my God, there's so many boring things that I could do with
that money. I was like, we'd both be so bored. I'd put it into a high just savings account. I don't know.
I would pay off some of my student debt. Living large, folks, living large.
How much was $500 in 1993? $500 in 1993 is $887 today.
That's a nice amount of money.
And that's US.
That's like the nice new SLR camera that I'm looking at.
Damn. Moving on. Next, we move into... Okay, well, they have that whole conversation about, like, you don't get to meet my friends because you guys are shitty to everyone I've ever dated. Which, like, if I had friends like that, I would also not introduce them to my friends. But it's also, like, kind of cute. There's totally been times where people have been like, I don't think anyone is good enough for my friend. Like, my friend is so amazing. No one that they ever date is going to be good enough for them. So I can, like, see that from, like, a friend perspective. But if it's just from, like, I want to make fun of the people you date perspective, that's shitty.
Yeah. They're a hard group in that way.
Yeah.
They do all make fun of each other's people that they're dating, and then they all get equally mad at each other and then claim that they've never, like, made fun of their partners.
That's true.
Their friends' dates in the past.
Okay, so next scene we go into Monica's apartment, and Phoebe is still so mad at Pinks.
Still mad at Pinks.
And I love her.
Well, it's got an extra $500 and...
a football phone!
Which, like, to be fair, this is a very real thing that usually happens when you contact banks or other types of organizations and needing help with something that's gone wrong.
It's like give you opposite help.
Yeah, they give you opposite help, or, like, not necessarily that they give you more money, because that wouldn't happen with a bank, but it's more just like, here's a football phone, and you're like, but why?
How is this relevant?
This did not help me.
Also, do you remember when, like, you could buy landline phones that were, like, in the shape of things, like burgers?
I thought of a burger one, too!
I think it's from the movie Juno.
Oh, probably, yeah.
But I find that,
or
like...
ducks. The duck one, the mallard one.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. But now, I feel like we've graduated away from that to, like, just, like, weird, funny-looking cases for cell phones.
Yeah, totally.
So you could buy, like, a burger case on your cell phone, or a football case if you want a football phone still. Oh, man.
Humans are weird. We're all just weird.
Yeah, and then Monica did agree to have the friends meet this person that she, like, doesn't even know how she's feeling about them. Which I find is so weird. Like, why would you invite someone over into your... anyway, whatever. I already said this, but I find it weird that she would invite someone over into her home that she's like, I don't know how I feel about this guy. I don't know if I'm, like, dating him or not. Why don't I bring him home to, like, have all my friends judge it? Like, go out. Go to a bar or something.
Well, I mean, we don't know how many times they've dated. Because when it's sort of like, I'm going to have a date tonight, and then Rachel's like, oh, with Alan again? And it's like, maybe they've gone on 5 dates. Maybe they've been on 2 dates.
But she literally says, she's like, I don't even know how I feel about him yet.
Yeah, we're having fun. I've never...
Does she say that?
Yeah. I find that this is actually a common phrase that is used to describe the dating journey in Friends, where it's like, we're having fun. And I'm just like, not once have I ever used that as a way to describe, like, me starting to date someone. Like, oh, we're having fun. I don't know.
That's true.
Maybe I should. Maybe I should be having more fun. And that's
maybe
why
you're not
I don't have a
fun.
relationship. Choosing people who are too serious.
That's so funny.
I don't know.
But to me, like, we're having fun implies, like, we're not serious in terms of, like we're having fun. Maybe we're sleeping together. But that's not a thing very often either in Friends. Like, you kind of hear about all the people.
It's hard to decipher, which is, like, a part of kind of, like, what I actually appreciate about Friends is that they sort of continuously just sort of drop you in and sort of remind you that, like, even though it's still a ridiculous amount of time that they spend sitting in a coffee shop in the middle of the day, that it is kind of like a continuous reminder that it's like, you are just dropping in to see moments of their lives. Yeah. You know?
That's
and
true.
So whether that's like dropping you into the middle of a conversation that they're having and you hearing like the highlight of it, or dropping you in and it's like, oh, Monica has apparently been dating other people.
Yeah.
And we don't know for how long. It's not like we're seeing every bit of every important detail of their lives.
That's true.
Have their full people outside of what we see and what's recorded in their lives.
Actually, no, Quinn. They are not. They are
Actually, they're characters. Actors play them.
All right. Also, Phoebe says a really cute thing, and she says, like the man in the shoe. His smile was kind of crooked, like the man in the shoe. So I took the liberty to go look up the 2 nursery rhymes that she's referencing.
I'm so glad you did this. I put a note to do it. Okay, go.
There was a crooked man, and he walked a crooked mile. He found a crooked sixpence against a crooked style. He bought a crooked cat, which caught a crooked mouse, and they all lived together in a little crooked house. So there's nothing about living in a shoe, because the one about the shoe is there was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, and she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread, then whipped them all soundly and put them to bed. Which also, I remember listening to this nursery rhyme as a child, but I never realized how awful that is.
No, right? Wow.
That's terrible.
Wow.
She had too many children, so she just gave them broth and then whipped them. Rude.
It's too much. It's too much.
All right.
Yeah, I'm really glad you looked that up because that was necessary. Let's go to the scene of our second character who is a person of color who has lines in the series. And so this is
Paula, I think, right?
Paula or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's Paula.
Paula? I don't think they actually say her name out loud. I think it's just in the script. Let's decipher this a little bit because this is a scene where Monica is just sort of like, we're getting a glimpse into her work life. She works as...
This is the second time that we get a glimpse into her work life. The first episode was Paul the wine guy, and she's talking to another coworker.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's true.
Which I also have to say is very cool because it means that so far in the kitchen she works in, there's 3 women who work in the kitchen that she works in, which is very rare that you find a kitchen in which there's 3 women working there and not just shitty, obnoxious, misogynist men.
You make a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also want to point out, well, first of all, one thing that really bothered me is that they're both wearing earrings in this scene.
Yes, and they have their hair down.
And yeah, and as people who have worked in kitchens, both of us, this is just not a thing. It does not fly. You are not allowed to wear earrings and you're not allowed to have your hair down. But what I find interesting about this scene, and we can dissect maybe the certain tropes that maybe this character fits for when you cast a person of color, but what I thought was interesting is that this character is of equal footing as Monica. She's working the same job as Monica in the kitchen.
That's true.
Which is something that you don't see very often when there's a person of color in the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then also if we flip back to last week's episode with the sonogram and the OB-GYN, like the doctor being a
black woman.
Yeah. Again, it's someone who is of essentially a status that is like a very educated person.
But again, I think this is where you would get like them getting those diversity points.
Yeah.
Like without actually having to do the work. Yeah, and that's gonna come up all the time.
Yeah, it is going to come up all the time. But it is something that's interesting because it's also really easy to cast these servers as people of color.
Which they do later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for sure. They do have, like, a full conversation, too. And she has, like, input, and she has wisdom, and she's, like, actually saying substantial things. Okay, I want to go on to the moment where we see Rachel walk into the coffee house, and she is looking baller. Literally because she played ball. She played baseball.
Nice.
She's got a bat. She's got a little cute hat. She's got a little black tee with a red heart and high-waisted jeans. And she is looking fly. She is looking a pop fly, as they say in baseball. That was 2 baseball references to talk about her one outfit.
That went completely over my head.
A pop fly. So when you hit the ball out of the park. I don't know anything about baseball. I just do crossword puzzles.
Okay, that explains it.
But yeah, no,
that's a great outfit that she has.
That gets my favorite outfit award.
Yeah, I actually just really love what they're all wearing. Like, whenever you see them in their, like, athletic gear, they're all just, like, so dorky, and you can really just tell that, like, Lululemon did not exist.
So true. And then, okay, I want to ask you a question, because Monica at this point, she's realizing that she maybe doesn't like Alan as much as, like, all her friends love Alan. Have you ever dated anyone in which your friends like the person you were dating more than you like the person you were dating?
I can't think of an example. Well, actually, I mean, you're my sister.
Fact.
Have I ever dated someone or started to date someone that you thought that I should have stuck with?
Maybe we shouldn't have this conversation on a podcast.
Let's go deep, Emily. Tell me what you think of my dating
Let's dissect
life.
your dating life. No.
No, yeah.
I don't know about that.
Same with you.
I just have high standards for you. And also you've dated some stinkers.
Yeah. So have you.
True. Good times. But it's definitely, I've definitely liked.
It's not a love life guru podcast.
Definitely
we're going
not.
on.
I've definitely
what not to do in your dating life.
I have definitely liked the people that my friends have dated more than they liked them before. I was like crushing hard, but like friend crushing. Mm-hmm. Maybe actual crushing. I don't know. There's a blurred line sometimes with that. And like, and been like, I don't know if you like this person as much as you should. They're awesome, you know?
Yeah, that's such a real thing where you're like, this is a great person. Get on board.
Is it bad that it often happens in which it's men who I don't think like women?
Oh, that's so real.
Well enough.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite in this. But anyways.
Yeah, but I also think it made sense that it was maybe too early to introduce him to her friends. Yeah. Because, like, they were really on board. They told, like, Rachel was telling Monica, like, this is it. You found the one. Yeah. And that can be a lot of pressure. Yeah. On like, trying to get a relationship started or exploring if you even want a relationship with a person. Mm-hmm. To have all your friends being like, we need this person in our life now. Yeah. It's like, I would probably freak out and back out, too. Yeah. I'd be like, never mind.
That's so true. Mm-hmm. I've realized that we didn't actually talk very much about, like, Chandler smoking in this episode.
Because I actually want you to expand on that, because I feel like...
Well, like, there was this huge thing about smoking in the 90s. Because smoking hasn't been cool for a while at this point in the 90s. And I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of 90s shows started to, like, put a lot of anti-smoking underlying tones in shows.
Yeah, well, we were like the generation of the beginning of
anti-smoking,
you know? And like, I remember we had more anti-smoking information than sex ed information in our elementary school.
That's very depressing.
I know, right?
Like, for example, Buffy, which we should also count the number of times we reference Buffy in the show. Buffy has a lot of anti-smoking campaign stuff going on, and, like, the villains smoke, you know? And I feel as though this show really portrays, like no one is on board with smoking. in this show. And like, if you see this episode, all of Chandler's friends, no man, you gotta quit, you gotta stop, like, this is disgusting, this is gross, but like, I feel like I've never talked to someone who smokes that way. Like, Ilyas smokes, my husband smokes. I've definitely talked to him about like, you shouldn't smoke. But it was never like a sit down lecture. And I feel as though this show was trying to really show like, we are anti-smoking.
I think that our perspective is also a little different than more mainstream folks, because we're from queer communities and
everyone smokes.
Yeah, everyone smokes. Like, if you are a femme queer person, I think you're like 4 times more likely to smoke than the average person.
What?
Yeah. It's
Where did you find this stat?
I found it a while ago on a census.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's something that it's just much more common within the queer community. And so having like a strong anti-smoking stance is just less common, even though like everyone knows it's bad, but it is a coping mechanism and people...
Trauma!
Exactly. And so it's much more just known that it's like, don't make people feel bad for their coping mechanisms, although we could go down a whole road of issues within that. But I feel like seen a little like peek into other people's worlds that are a little bit more, you could say like mainstream or whatnot, where there's a much more like a strong anti-smoking stance. You know, like, oh my God, this person smoked, you know, like that sort of perspective that does exist in the world that I feel like we're very removed from.
Okay, fun fact. So smoking was banned inside in New York in 2003. So that's why Chandler is comfortably smoking in Central Perk without...
behind the couch.
Like, without...
with his butt on the other side.
I'm so thankful that I wasn't alive in the generation which, like...
That you didn't go out, yeah.
Yeah, I remember, like, I have a specific memory of when, like, Tim Hortons had smoking sections.
Yes!
So there was, like, glass smoking sections, and, like, restaurants had smoking sections.
Yeah.
And then, but I definitely have no recollection of when, like, people just smoked in restaurants or, like, smoked in cafes.
Yeah, and, like, they changed it over in, like, bars and even on...
terraces now.
Terraces before... we hit the age where we would, I mean, doesn't mean we were drinking, but we weren't legally allowed to drink in these bars yet.
No, wait, no. They just banned smoking on terraces recently, in the past 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I was working in a bar when they banned terraces because I remember I was also smoking and I was annoyed that I can go to Mad Hatter's and smoke on their epic terrace.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. What's the point of Mad Hatter's if you can't smoke on their terrace?
Well, now they've moved and it's just not great.
Right.
Anyways, these people don't know what Mad Hatter's is.
I mean, it's a bar in Montreal. Like,
yeah, it's great. It's a great bar. Well, it was. And then they moved. And then they banned smoking. Yes. Okay. Anyways, moving on.
Chandler's smoking in his cubicle.
Oh, that's a great scene.
That is such a great scene.
It's like 2 minutes, total silence. Well, like no scripted
no dialogue.
Words.
Yeah.
And it's so well done.
And I think this is, again, like we keep kind of talking about like the aspects of Friends that we really think makes it work. And I feel like them, like they're not sticking to a mold or a script or like, I think the main thing that they stick to in their kind of chemistry or their formula is sort of the 3 stories that they have going on at once in each episode. But this is great. This is an amazing scene. Just Chandler. And fun fact about this scene, the Blue Jays hat in the background.
Oh yeah, the Blue Jays hat in the back.
Yeah. And so apparently Matthew Perry, who plays Chandler, is partly Canadian or has both a Canadian and American citizenship and actually was raised in Ottawa.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
That's wild. I didn't know that.
For everyone, we're in Montreal, and Ottawa is 2.5 hours away from us. I'm kind
of disappointed in myself that I didn't already know that.
I mean, I'm disappointed in you. I don't really care for myself. And apparently he's a really big Toronto Blue Jays fan, and that's why there's a Blue Jays hat in the backyard, background of that scene. So if you didn't notice it, go back and double check, because it's there. For everyone who cares. For everyone who cares. I want to talk a little bit about Lizzie, who is the homeless woman on the street. Yes. That
Phoebe gives $1,000 to and a football phone. Not that, I don't know if anyone wants a football phone.
My favorite part, I know, right? My favorite part about that scene is that Lizzie refers to Phoebe as the weird girl.
Yeah, what are your feels around the, like, depiction of homelessness in this?
I think that...
Notice the audible sigh from both of us.
I know, right? I think that it plays into a certain script that already exists around...
homeless people being quote-unquote crazy.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it veers away so strongly from reality. And so if we're going to lower our standards and just sort of accept that this is a trope that Friends is actively playing a part in being a part of, I appreciate that Lizzie is referring to Phoebe as the weird girl. And,
right. Like dishing it back a little bit.
Dishing it back, but also, or maybe say, you could even interpret it as pointing out that Phoebe is just as strange as many people who are depicted, like the trope that is depicted for people who live on the street. But I think that maybe we should maybe unpack a little bit, like, why this trope of being quote unquote crazy, which is not an appropriate word to use in general. Yeah, that, like, someone on the street is there for essentially like mental health reasons or is quote unquote crazy. Mm-hmm. And that is essentially often portrayed as like the only reason why someone is on the street.
It's because they're crazy, yeah.
Yeah, who is homeless. Emily, do you want to unpack the issues behind that a little bit?
Yeah, I have feels around it in the sense that, like, the reality is that there's a lot of people who are homeless because we just have a terrible economic system. A lot of queer youth are homeless. Homelessness is so pervasive along so many identities. There isn't adequate mental health help from the government. And unfortunately, a lot of people with physical or mental disabilities end up homeless because we've created a system in which they are not treated with care, kindness, housing, help. I hate when homeless people who are quote unquote crazy are being portrayed on media as like a joke. But I do like when homeless people who have mental health conditions are portrayed on media as like, this is an issue that needs to be solved. So in this episode, I don't like the way that it's done because it's a joke, She's like, you can have my tinfoil hat. And
right.
It's a joke. But like, what frustrates me is that they could have removed the tinfoil hat comment and it would have been a perfectly fine depiction of homelessness. Mm-hmm. Because also, Phoebe in later episodes talks about how she was homeless for several years.
Right.
And so, I don't know, it gives a different spin to it. But when you're watching the episode, you don't know that.
Right. Yeah. In future, you do meet some, like, at least one person that, she knows from when she was living on the street.
Yeah, and it's referenced. Other people are referenced.
Yeah. And it does sound that she's actually quite in contact with a fair amount of them.
Yeah. Again, it's usually at a butt of a joke. But I think that, like, I don't know. I like that this side of Phoebe is portrayed in this episode. Because it's such a Phoebe thing.
I didn't even put that together. But you're very right. Yeah.
But it's also, I do find that I find this episode does a good job of, like, Phoebe not really understanding, like, social things very well. Like, when she says, like, at the end of the episode, which we're coming to that scene, she says, like, because she finds the thumb. She finds the thumb in the soda, right? And she said, spoiler alert. No, I'm kidding. That's where the name of the episode comes from. And then the banks give her $7,000 and she says that line. She's like, the bank gave me $7,000 and I stepped in gum. What is up with the universe? Like, she doesn't make a difference between the two. Like, and that happens a lot in the show where she's just kind of like, she's weird. And she doesn't necessarily put hierarchies on experiences, I find. And I don't know, I think Phoebe is very unique in the way that I don't feel as though she often thinks she's above people. She frequently does not think she's above people. Yeah. Except maybe Ross. But
she just doesn't like Ross.
Yeah. But like to me, I wonder if the show was just trying to portray Phoebe as someone who just like, she got granted $1,000. She doesn't need it. Why would she keep it? Let me give it to someone. you know? And I don't know if, like, I don't think that's done in a way where it's like Phoebe thinks she's above this person. Like, she doesn't make a big show about donating it. She doesn't tell anyone. Like, she obviously has and she obviously has a relationship with this woman because she gives her alphabet soup, like
left out the vowels except for Y, because, you know, maybe Y, sometimes Y.
Sometimes Y. And Phoebe, like, relates to that, and she responds to that, and, like, it's a joke how Phoebe is kind of, like, weird, but, like, Phoebe is an acceptable weird. Whereas this woman is homeless, and therefore she's an unacceptable weird. I don't know. It gives me a lot of things to think about. And I think that, like, I would like other people's input on this. So, like, talk to us. Tell us what you think about this.
Yeah, I would appreciate that as well. Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot to unpack around homelessness moving forward, because that was a part of Phoebe's life and it is referred to a fair amount. And I think that will give us, like, plenty of opportunity to talk about it more moving forward.
That's true. I want to say a line. Chandler is a shit disturber.
Oh my God. He's so mean in this episode.
He's mean, like, yeah, he's having nicotine withdrawals. But
even when he isn't, he's just mean when he smokes.
That's true.
You know?
Chandler's just kind of mean. But he, like, I love how he, like, carefully manipulates the scene so that he doesn't have to hear people's heat about him smoking. And he just, like, calls out other people's flaws and then just, like, lets them all get into it and, like, walks away smiling, like, so smug. And, like, if he was my friend in real life, I would hate him. But I just love this. Like, just, like, you're great.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely
so great, Chandler.
It's definitely portraying him, like, showing you the really dark sides of Chandler and his character.
So and his kind
sneaky, of... Yeah, and he's just sneaky, shit disturber. Definitely.
There's another line I want to talk about, too. Ross and Rachel are talking about Alan and how he's so great. Then Ross goes, "If only he were a woman." And Rachel goes, "Yeah." And then they look at each other like, that was A+ gay.
A+ gay, yes.
I want to talk about my favorite quote.
Oh my God, yeah. What's our favorite quote?
So my favorite quote comes at the very end of this episode, in which after Monica has broken up with Alan, I first want to talk about the fact that, like, this is another example of excellent writing when you see Monica talking about breaking up with Alan as, like, breaking up with them. Yeah. And it's like this, she's saying one thing, but she's meaning something else, or, like, it's implying something else, or there's tones of something else. And I really love that kind of writing. I think it's so crafty and it's cute, you know? She's like, they're like, is there someone else? You know? And it's just like, they're obviously trying to portray that, like, you know, the 4 friends or the 5 friends are the ones being broken up with, you know? And everyone's like, no, like, I can't believe this is happening. And I think, I just think it's so cute.
It is very much a Friends moment recipe.
Yes.
Where they definitely impose one situation and play it out as something else. Yeah. And it just it never fails to be extremely cute and engaging and entertaining and just generally amazing content.
That's so true, yeah. And then in this scene also, Chandler gets the nicotine patch.
Oh, yeah.
This is my favorite line. Chandler gets the nicotine patch and he says, "Ooh, I'm alive with pleasure now." And I have to say that I use that line on, like, a regular basis. Whenever, like, I'm feeling sarcastic and snarky and someone, like, tells me to cheer up or, like, gives me, like, something that's, like, potentially going to make me feel better and I'm just feeling snarky, I'll be like, "Ooh, I'm alive with pleasure now." It's a great line.
I do know that you do that.
I use it a lot.
Let's talk about fashion. My favorite outfit is probably Monica's dress that she wears when Alan comes over.
Full length,
buttons all the way down the front, and, like, super flowy with, like, I think there's slits on the side or something.
That's coming back in style, that kind of dress.
Yeah, totally. And I love it. I think it's really great. But I also have to say that there's a close second with another outfit that Monica wore. I was worried in the last couple episodes that I was going to be completely biased to Rachel's outfit every single time. But Monica's other outfit that she wears to break up with Alan and also uses to break up with the whole friend group
That's true.
or tell them that her and Alan are breaking up
Yeah.
is the black t-shirt one with like these pants that have these long pinstripes on them.
Yeah. High-waisted,
very flowy again.
And again, that's also coming back in style.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You're right.
The high-waisted pants and crop tops is totally coming back in.
It's a great look. And you say wearing high-waisted pants and a crop top.
I am literally wearing high-waisted pants and crop top right now and no bra, which is also a 90s thing.
Totally.
Aww. I am a 90s baby.
But as for polls, because I took some polls.
Yes.
On the fashion side, 4 votes for that second Monica outfit that I just described. And
so many votes.
I know, right? We had 2 people voting for the outfit that you just said with Rachel after the ball game with the big heart on her t-shirt. My favorite outfit, which was the flowy dress one, there was just 1 vote, and it was me. I will be honest. No one liked the Ross outfit that I put up.
With the plaid shirt.
I don't know why people didn't like that one.
It's a great outfit.
It's a great outfit.
But I think it's because it's not iconic.
But also there's a moment, and I couldn't capture it, but he's sitting down and you actually see the boots that he's wearing. So he's wearing these like lighter jeans and then these really nice brown ankle-high boots.
Ooh,
yeah, like polished leather.
Outfit.
And yeah, there's like just like 1 millisecond where you see his entire outfit, and it's just, I thought it was really good.
Wow.
Yeah, on point. Way to go, Ross. Probably one of your better outfits, Ross. And then we had 2 votes for Chandler's outfit when he is being told by Ellen to stop smoking. Can you picture this outfit?
I cannot.
It's ridiculous. It's the one, okay, so it's like these off-white slacks that he's wearing, like light tan slack. And then he's wearing some sort of it's a long sleeve shirt, like black button-up shirt. And then he's wearing, on top of that, this really weird brown vest, but it's like a patchy brown wool vest.
Oh, that's brutal.
I'm showing
like the
Emily a
beginning? Is this the beginning of Chandler's sweater vests?
Oh, I know, he's already had sweater vests so far.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
God.
And then he's on top of that wearing a tie that has brown checker things on it and these white oval dots that, anyway,
that sounds pretty 90s. It sounds almost more 80s, actually.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting.
That would make sense if Chandler is stuck in the past. But we got 2 votes for favorite episode, for favorite outfit for that one.
Nice.
And then we got 3 votes for Joey's outfit at the opening scene with just wearing a white t-shirt and a black long sleeve open up with jeans as being like when
Classic.
He's learning how to smoke, which is it's very Spike. That outfit that he's wearing, Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
You know. Obviously, if you're listening to the show, you know who Spike is.
If you don't,
we're kidding.
Go watch Buffy. Yeah, it's very Spike. But I also want to give the polls for like the results that we got for, do you think you could give up smoking for $7,000?
When I was smoking, it's hard to say because I don't smoke now. And I would like to have $7,000 from it.
Yeah, I wish I had quit because someone offered me $7,000.
That's so funny. I wish that I got $7,000 for never smoking.
I know, right? But you did smoke, so you wouldn't have gotten the $7,000.
Yeah, but now I quit, so give me $7,000. I don't think many people could do that. What were the votes?
So we had 4 people vote that they would have quit smoking for $7,000. And then when I asked everyone, it's funny because then it flips. Because when I ask everyone, do you think you would stop smoking for $7,000? So many people voted yes. But then when the question was flipped and it's like, do you think your friend who smokes would quit smoking for $7,000? The answers were 25% yes and 75% no. Yeah. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And it's also $7,000 in 1993, which... If we pull out our 1994, sorry. Which if we pulled out our handy dandy calculator, that's like $12,000.
Oh my God. That's a down payment on a house in a small city.
Yeah, not in Toronto.
Not in Toronto. But you could give a $12,000 down payment in a small house in Peterborough, Ontario.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's move to Peterborough.
No, let's not.
And that's all, folks. All right. So that's it. That's our wrap up of the episode of season 1, episode 3. Little spoiler for, I guess, next week. If things go well, we may have another voice on the show.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum. We won't say who.
No, we're not going to say who.
In case things don't go well. So we don't get your hopes up.
We'll see what happens. But we might have a guest host. And we're going to be bringing up some heavier topics next week, I think. And we want to thank everyone for following us,
listening to us,
and giving us responses on our polls. Because those are just so much fun. And we just really appreciate everyone giving feedback.
So if you're not already following us, follow us on Instagram at WT Phalange, PHALANGE.
And then you can also follow us individually. You can find me literally at the handle Quinn, Quinn, K as in kangaroo, Brunet, BRUNET on Instagram. And then if you search that, you'll probably find some other pages of mine.
Yeah, good call. Google.
Google a friend.
My name is harder to Google because it's very common in Quebec. But you can find me at my handle on Facebook and Instagram at Emily B Yoga, or on my website emilybyoga.com. That's Emily EMILIE. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.